You might have seen people online recently claiming that Mario Kart music has helped them to get their papers done faster and with more focus. Maybe you've even tried it yourself. There's countless Mario Kart for studying playlists online, and many people, including myself, swear by this studying tip. I've listened to Mario Kart music while writing just about every paper I've done at university so far, with good results. But this begs the question, is there any substance behind this claim, or is it all a coincidence? Well, there's actually evidence that points towards the former. Let's discuss. Does Mario Kart music actually help you focus? Video game music, especially games with the fast pace of Mario Kart, is designed to keep the player engaged with the task at hand. It does this by using musical devices to keep us alert and with a positive mood, which leads to a higher processing speed. At the same time, however, the composers need to find a delicate balance. They don't want the music to be too distracting, so they find ways to make the music blend into the background of the game. They do this through simple, repetitive form, seamless loops, and a lack of dynamic contrast. Let's look at some examples. This study, published in 2015, found that people responded with a higher physiological arousal when the music that was played had a higher tempo. They also found correlation between higher arousal levels and higher pitched music. Both of these components are staple characteristics in Mario Kart music. Here's Coconut Mall, arguably the most popular Mario Kart song online. This particular arrangement is by the video game pianist. The tempo marking is 132 beats per minute with an expression marking of vivace e scherzando, which literally means lively and joking. All this is to say it's fast and upbeat. It is also consistently high in pitch, especially this intro, in which both hands play in the treble clef. We also have a key change here right after the main theme is established. We're in F sharp now, just one semitone higher than before. This rise in pitch creates a sense of urgency and tension, which might reiterate how you're feeling as you try to complete an assignment an hour before it's due. It contributes to the sense of alertness to keep you engaged with your task, rather than getting distracted by your phone or nodding off. A study published in 2014 compared mental performance while listening to music. They compared Mahler's Fifth Symphony Adagietto with Mozart's Eine kleine Nachtmusik. The former is in the minor mode with a slow tempo. Mozart's piece is upbeat and in the major mode. They also used two control groups, one with white noise and one with no noise at all. Overall, they found that performance in the processing speed tasks was most enhanced with the background of Mozart's music. This suggests that an upbeat tempo in major mode can lead to an increase of success in processing speed tasks, which include reading and math, according to Cleveland Clinic. These tasks will benefit more from the alert state that the upbeat music provides. According to RRC Polytech, positive emotions can help you to engage with the material you are learning, which makes it easier for your brain to form memories as you're learning. From this, we can conclude that music that gets you in a positive mood will be beneficial to your homework session. There are many aspects of Mario Kart's soundtrack that can evoke a positive mood. First and most obviously, the upbeat nature of the music can encourage a cheerful mood, along with the fact that many of the pieces are in the major mode, which is inherently more cheerful and bright than other modes. The simple accompanying bass line drives the groove of the music, along with syncopated rhythms and short articulations. This groove can also be a positive influence on the listener's mood. Overall, Mario Kart music can elicit positive emotions through its upbeat, groovy feel, which in turn could help you to engage with your work. Because of the upbeat, major nature of Mario Kart's music, and for all the reasons stated above, it could improve your mood and alertness to create a better headspace to complete cognitive tasks. But the music has to be careful to avoid becoming too overpowering. Now let's look at some of the ways Mario Kart music fades into the background as to not distract the listener from their task. A 2023 study found that music with lyrics was perceived as more impairing than instrumental music. The music without lyrics was seen as less distracting and resulted in more correct responses from the participants than the music with lyrics. From this, we can conclude that Mario Kart music might be a better choice for focus than music with lyrics. Mario Kart music does not often put emphasis on dynamic contrast. Where in a symphony, you may experience soft woodwind sections building up to massive outbursts by brass, you won't hear that in any Mario Kart tracks. In fact, in all the examples I've shown so far, there have been no dynamic markings whatsoever. While that is a choice by the arrangers, Zao Migros and video game pianist, the fact that they didn't include dynamic markings indicates that these dynamics don't hold so much weight in this sort of music. Because the dynamic is fairly consistent, there aren't any overly loud or soft parts to distract the listener. Video game music is quite unique in the fact that it will often loop. There is no telling how long the player will be in a certain area, or in our case, racing on the track, so they tend to be composed in a looped fashion, where you can't tell where the loop begins or ends. While most concert compositions have a beginning, middle, and end, Winifred Phillips writes in A Composer's Guide to Game Music that these points would become attention-grabbing landmarks, which would immediately show the listener that the music is going in circles. The music, therefore, needs to be fairly consistent, with no points that jump out as a climax or ending. This consistency is achieved by simple form, more on that later, and the transition between bottom and top of the loop, or the loop point. There are a couple ways to achieve this, detailed in A Composer's Guide to Game Music. One method is to use a vamp, where a pattern is repeated at both the beginning and the end of a piece to create a sense that the piece is purely continuing after a short accompaniment break. For example, let's look at Delfino Square. At the first ending, this little chord progression closes out the loop. So there are many tracks in Mario Kart Wii that complete their loops this way. This makes for a smooth transition to the top of the piece, which you wouldn't even notice while you're studying. Another example that Phillips discusses is the loop point flourish. This is when, at the end of the track, there is an anticipatory build-up that leads to the start of the loop point. Take Coconut Mall, for example. This section here is a bit different than the rest, but goes by fairly quickly and lands on the beginning of the track. This gives the feeling that the start of the loop is another chorus rather than the start of a new loop. Using these loop methods, the tracks seamlessly blend into themselves, not distracting the listener with beginnings and endings. This helps them to fade in the background so you can keep focusing on your task. Mario Kart music uses some very predictable phrase types that feel natural to the ears. There are many examples of common phrase structures in the soundtrack, but let's look at Coconut Mall again. We start with an intro and then get into what I called the A section. Here we have 2 bars that end in a perfect, authentic cadence. A basic idea. This can be the antecedent of a period-like phrase pair. Then the consequent begins the same way, making it a parallel period-like phrase, and ending with another perfect, authentic cadence. The reason that this can't be called a period is because the antecedent ends with a perfect, authentic cadence. It is, however, similar and an unoffensive phrase sentence structure to our ears nonetheless. This structure repeats again, then again in a different key, just one half step upwards. Then we move into the B section. This section feels different, but still has this simple phrase structure. First we hear a basic idea, and then it is varied. Then the sentence-like phrase is finished with a 2-bar continuation. The reason I don't call this a sentence and instead a sentence-like phrase is because it doesn't have any cadences. Then, the C section is a little different. The melody's rhythmic speed slows a little, allowing the quick, groovy bass line to shine. Then short, syncopated chords lead to the loop point flourish back to the A section. There are just 3 main sections in this track, which flow seamlessly into each other and are built using simple, recognizable phrase pairs. From these examples, we can conclude that Coconut Mall uses a lot of repetition and simple phrase structures that are easy for our ears to comprehend, therefore allowing the phrases to become familiar faster and fade into the background. Our ears don't question these 8-bar phrases very much because we're used to hearing them. So to recap, Mario Kart music uses its quick tempo, major mode, groove, and driving bass line to provide an enjoyable, upbeat listening experience that improves your mood and helps you stay awake and alert. At the same time, though, it's careful to stay in the background. Its lyricless nature, low dynamic contrast, repetition, smooth loops, and simple form allow it to fade into the background, so that you can focus. So, Mario Kart music may be a benefit when you're completing tasks such as reading, writing, or math. This is not to say, however, that this is the perfect focus tool for everyone. Some people simply find music too distracting, and that's okay. Everybody's brain works differently. All this is just to say it's worth a shot. You've got nothing to lose in trying. So next time you've got a paper due in a couple hours, throw on some Coconut Mall and see what happens.